Hey guys, welcome. My name is Bobby, and today I am going to show you how to paint a snake biting a human brain with watercolor. Let's start right in. First of all, you need a thick paper and a pen. Start drawing the outlines of the brain and don't be too accurate. Watercolors are not well suited for details as they are difficult to control in the paper, but I'm going to show you some tricks in my videos on how to control them. When we got our outlines, we start to draw the brain coils. You can draw them randomly or as you prefer. For more spatial impression, draw them smaller at the top of the brain. Pause the video in case you can't keep up. To show you my concept of today's video, I started to draw the snake. Instead of the spine, this venomous animal is coming out of the brain, going around it and biting it in the cerebral cortex. For this, I needed a second attempt because I disliked my first try. Drawing a biting snake isn't an easy task, therefore I recommend you find some pictures on the internet for inspirations. Also, this can be said for the brain. Before I started, I thought about how to paint the brain and made some test painting on an extra sheet of paper. Professional watercoloring is a revered art form that requires mastery of specific techniques and a deep understanding of the medium's unique properties. Here are some key techniques used by professional watercolorists. 1. Wet-on-wet technique. This technique involves applying wet paint onto a wet surface, creating soft, diffused edges, and allowing colors to blend seamlessly. It's ideal for backgrounds, skies, and water. The process requires careful control of water and pigment to avoid muddiness and to maintain vibrant colors. 2. Wet-on-dry technique. Wet-on-dry is the application of wet paint onto a dry surface, producing sharp, defined edges. This method is excellent for adding details and for layering colors. It allows for greater control over the spread of the paint and is commonly used for creating texture and depth. 3. Dry brush technique. Using a dry brush with minimal water and paint, this technique achieves rough, textured strokes, often used for details like grass, hair, or the texture of wood. It gives a distinctive, gritty appearance that contrasts with the smoothness of more fluid techniques. 4. Glazing. Glazing involves applying a transparent wash over a dry layer of paint. Each successive layer alters the color and value, creating depth and luminosity. This technique requires patience and precision, as it's important to ensure each layer is fully dry before adding another to prevent lifting the underlying paint. 5. Lifting. Lifting is the process of removing paint from the paper after it has been applied, either while it's still wet or after it has dried. This can be done using a damp brush, sponge, or tissue. It's useful for correcting mistakes, creating highlights, or adding texture. 6. Gradients and washes. Creating smooth gradients and washes is fundamental in watercolor. A gradient wash transitions from one color to another or from dark to light, while a flat wash is an even application of color. Both require control over the water-to-pigment ratio and the angle of the paper to ensure even distribution and prevent streaking. 7. Masking. Masking involves using materials like masking fluid or tape to protect areas of the paper from paint. Once the masking material is removed, the protected areas remain white or the color of the underlying layer. This technique is useful for preserving highlights and creating sharp, clean edges. 8. Salt texture. Sprinkling salt onto wet paint creates a unique, crystalline texture as the salt absorbs the water and pigment. This technique is often used to add interest and texture to backgrounds and natural elements like foliage or sandy beaches. 9. Spattering. Spattering is a method where paint is flicked onto the paper using a brush or other tools, creating a random pattern of dots and splashes. It adds texture and can simulate the appearance of foliage, rain, or stars. 10. Negative painting. Negative painting focuses on painting around the subject rather than the subject itself. By applying darker values around lighter areas, the subject emerges from the background. This technique is effective for creating intricate designs and for emphasizing the light and form of the subject. 11. Color mixing. Understanding color theory and mastering the art of color mixing is crucial. Watercolorists often mix colors directly on the paper by allowing them to blend naturally, or on a palette to achieve the desired hue and value. The transparency of watercolors means that layering colors can produce rich, complex results. 12. Paper and brush selection. The choice of paper and brushes significantly impacts the outcome. Professional watercolorists typically use high-quality, archival-grade paper with a weight of at least 140 LOB, 300 GSM, to prevent warping and buckling. Brushes vary in shape and size, each serving different purposes. Round brushes are versatile for details and washes, while flat brushes are useful for broad strokes and edges. Conclusion. Mastering professional watercolor techniques involves a blend of control, spontaneity, and a thorough understanding of the medium's properties. By practicing these techniques and experimenting with their combinations, watercolorists can create dynamic and expressive works of art that showcase the fluidity and vibrancy unique to watercolors. And now the painting process. With watercolors, you start with light colors most of the time. In case of acrylic colors, you would rather start with darker colors. The brain is a light pinky tone, so we apply a first coat. You get pink by mixing red with white. Don't use too much paint as the brain is glossy. You can make it darker by applying another layer. We can use green and red to highlight darker spots of the brain 2 times. The first time when the pink layer is still wet, so the colors will mix. After it dried up, paint the contours of the brain wrinkles with olive green. Are you ready for further details on the brain? Perfect. To give the brain more depth, we use brown, gray, black, and for the darkest parts, some blue. It is important to know where the light in your painting is coming from. In my case, from the top down. As we come to an end, I want to say thank you for watching. See you soon.